the Fighter. Now, the Fighter gets a bunch of new fighting style options as optional features. You can go with blind fighting, blind sight and see invisibility to 10 feet. I know players seem to clamour for a blind fighter or a blind monk kind of style player for ages, and this looks like a bone throw, but it kind of isn't. It's pretty niche anyway. There's Interception. You can reduce damage by 1d10 plus your proficiency done to an adjacent ally once per turn as a reaction, as long as you're armed or have a shield. It seems really strong. It's sort of up there with protection. You can do this with like a two-handed weapon, so you don't need the shield. There's Superior Technique. You gain a maneuver from the Battlemaster subclass. I like this for diversity, but there's a feat that already grants this option, and if your DM's allowing Tasha's Cauldron, they're probably allowing for feats. There's Thrown Weapon Fighting. You can draw a thrown weapon and attack in the same turn, and you do +2 damage with thrown ranged attacks. As a primary fighting style, it's not fantastic unless you've got a lot of thrown weapons on hand, and by the time you adopt a secondary fighting style, the boost to damage, it doesn't scale, so it's just negligible. And lastly, there's Unarmed Fighting. Your unarmed strikes deal 1d6 plus strength, or they do 1d8 if you don't have a weapon or shield. And you can deal damage to people while you're grappled. This seems just wrong, because it lets fighters deal more unarmed strike damage at level 1 than if you had taken a monk. For maneuver options, which you get from the Battlemaster, there's a few, but some of these seem less like maneuvers and more like options you could take with the Martial Adept feat or the Superior Technique feature, just with a 1-level fighter dip. So I don't know if that was what they were intending, but it doesn't really stand up to the others that you see. There's Ambush, which buffs your stealth or initiative rolls that really would only suit a build specifically designed for that style of play. There's Bait and Switch. It swaps places with a willing adjacent creature and give either you or them AC, so that's good for the sort of tanky protective type. There's Brace, which nets you an attack of opportunity when a foe enters your melee range, as well as leaves it, so that would be good for fighters with reach weapons. There's Commanding Presence, which buffs intimidation, performance, or persuasion, which, again, that doesn't strike me as a maneuver at all. There's Grappling Strike. You can grapple as a bonus action after a hit. I've never really bothered with grappling myself, but it could be good for a sort of an unarmed brawler build. And Quick Toss. You can throw a throwing weapon as a bonus action. Technically, a level 3 Battlemaster with a spear could attack 3 times in a turn, using both Action Serve and Quick Toss to throw the spear at an enemy out of melee range, so there's probably a way to make this pretty strong. Lastly, there's Tactical Assessment to buff Investigation, History, or Insight, which seems a little more on message than Commanding Presence, but as far as I'm concerned, it's still not a maneuver. The martial archetypes for Fighter include the Psy Warrior. Now, this was its own class, all its own in 3.5, and it seems like all the psionic, new subclasses that get introduced kind of fall flat because they're not unique, distinct, or powerful enough anymore. With a Psy Warrior, you require a decent intelligence score as well as your usual attributes, so players will probably feel pretty underpowered for this one. But I could see myself sort of playing a Duergar Psy Warrior, up on the surface, hunting down dwarves in the name of Deep Duerra. They also get the Roon Knight, which is cool, because it's like a binder without the downsides, and there's no social stigma, and you get flavour relating to the giants, which are often overlooked. The subclass seems specifically made with Goliaths in mind, but it's also great for Genocide, given their constitution bonus. And you could potentially reskin the giant origin of your runes for the genies.